Episode number 43 of That One Time on Tour is brought to you by the band The Gutz. The Gutz, spelled G-U-T-Z, are a three-piece punk rock band from Santa Cruz, California. Their new EP, Femina Vapira, was put out by No Pants Records and is available now on iTunes and most streaming services. New Noise magazine called their brand of melodic heartfelt punk downright addictive. For more information on the band, check out thegutsband.com, on Instagram at thegutzpunkrock, and on Facebook /The Gutz Rock. Now here it is, their new single, The Bridge.
From Lucero, and you're listening to That One Time on Tour.
Run for the road, 'cause it's going on and on. We'll be driving through the darkest night until the break of dawn. And we'll be heading for the cities, another show for us to play. To get back in the band, 'cause tomorrow we'll do it all again.
Hello and welcome to another episode of That One Time on Tour. As always, I'm your host, Chris Swinney, back with another stellar conversation with someone in or around the entertainment industry. I won't say music anymore because sometimes I have people that aren't in music. But this week, I have someone that is in music. I got to sit down with Mr. Brian Venable, lead guitar player for the band Lucero. This was a big one for me. Lucero is one of my favorite bands. They have two records that just are very, very important to me. A record called Tennessee and a record called That Much Further West. And we're going to get into that in the conversation, talk about my love for those records. And Brian's a really cool guy. He was a little worried about coming on the podcast. I don't think he's done many podcasts before. But we had a great conversation. We talk about all kinds of stuff as far as like his playing style and how open and kind of, spacey it is. And he talks about, Lucero's his first band. That's kind of crazy, Like I remember talking with Eddie from Thrice, and to think about your first band being the band that you're still in over 20 years later, that's pretty insane. So before I get to my conversation with Brian, I do need to do a little bit of business, a little bit less business than normal. This week, we only have two sponsors other than the band at the beginning. The Gutz. You need to check out the Gutz, Gutz. They're out of Santa Cruz, California. They're really, really cool. So check them out. Also, we've got Rockabilia.com. They are our longest running sponsor. I love Rockabilia. They have over 500,000 unique items in their store. Anything from your favorite band, you need to go to Rockabilia.com. And at checkout, put in the promo code PCTOTOT, and you're going to save 15% on your entire order. So head on over to rockabilia.com and check it out. You also need to check out Muncie Music Center. You can go to munciemusic.com, or if you are local in central Indiana, you need to go to 600 South Mulberry Street here in Muncie. They're an amazing little mom and pop store. They've got everything you need for music. I teach guitar and anything with strings at that store, so check it out and support them, munciemusic.com. So that is the sponsors for this week. Our Patreon's been doing a lot better. We have 3 patrons now, hoping to get some more patrons soon. If you guys, like what I'm doing, you like the show, you want to get more involved in a cool community and get an exclusive content and all kinds of good stuff, head on over to patreon.com/TOTOT podcast and get involved. For only $5 a month, you can join the club, and it's a lot of fun. And like I said, we've got 3, but it's growing. There are people emailing me all the time about it, so hopefully it's going to continue to grow. Some new news this week in TOTOT land. We now have a website. Well, kinda. It's a link tree with all the links to where you can listen, but you can go to TOTOTpodcast.com. That is TOTOTpodcast.com. It takes you right to our link tree, and it's got, the links for Spotify, Stitcher, Google Music, Apple, everything is there. You can find it. We also have a donate button, so if you're not into the Patreon thing, you can also just make a one-time donation if you want to help out. There are costs that are accrued with doing this podcast, and it's always nice to get a little bit of support from our listeners. But if not, listen for free. I'm doing it for you guys anyway. It doesn't matter. Other than that, it is a lot nicer in Indiana this week. It is not as cold. We are supposed to get some snow tomorrow, but, who knows? Maybe it won't happen. But nothing much is going on. I got a new car. That's going well. My other car broke down. I think I talked about it on the last episode. But I got a Mercury Mariner, a nice SUV for the family. I finally feel like, like a soccer dad. So that's what's going on in my neck of the woods. I'm really excited for you guys to hear this conversation with Brian. Make sure you're following us on all the social media platforms. It's at TOTOT Podcast. If you want to become a sponsor, you can hit me up, tototpodcast@gmail.com. All of these things are over at tototpodcast.com. So that you can just go, your one-stop shop, tototpodcast.com. Go check it out. Tell a friend. Tell a loved one. You can leave us some love or some hate on the TOTOT hotline. That is 1-765-372-8818. So that is it. I am going to jump into my conversation right now with Mr. Brian Venable of Lucero. And I'm on the line with Brian from Lucero. How are you today, man?
I'm wonderful.
That's great. How's the weather in Memphis?
It is a balmy, probably 34 degrees, maybe a little. We're the Mid-South, so it's like ridiculous. The other day, we woke up and it was 72, and by the end of the night, it was 27. So
yeah, I'm in Indiana, and it was the same way here. It was like 65, and by the end of the night, it was 20, and we just started getting some snow here. But it's been pretty brutal winter here for us.
Well, it was real funny because it was getting cold. And we were in Australia last week, which is full summer where they're like 100 degrees.
Yeah.
And then we come home. So we missed whatever polar vortex which we never get that lucky.
It was pretty bad. It was like below zero for a couple of days. It was nasty here in Indiana.
Yeah.
So, well, let's talk a little bit about Australia. I have a lot of listeners in Australia, and I actually, Stephen, one of my listeners, said that he spoke with you and said he couldn't wait for your episode of this podcast, and you were like worried about what you were going to say to me.
Well, no, it's kind of this is probably a wonderful, fun thing for most people, but
Yeah.
sometimes when you're telling these stories, these are like shit talking at a bar or on a bus, you know, like, oh, you wouldn't believe what so-and-so did.
Yeah.
Or you wouldn't believe what happened, you know? And that's a big thing where I'm like, ooh, I'm starting to think like, what happened that one time on tour? Should probably stay on tour.
Yeah, that's like what happens on tour stays on tour, right?
Yeah, and that's because this last time in Australia, I'm sober 5 years now. It's all normal and good, but the last time we were there was Soundwave, and that's when I was doing most of the damage.
Yeah.
Where, you know, and that's the funny part for me was just, I didn't know. Australia is very lax internally when you fly.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, it was just, we were playing that Soundwave, and so we would, you know, and you fly everywhere. So it just kind of turned into, we would play at noon, but we would fly to the next city at 3 or 4. But there was that 3 hours or so to kill. And so I'd end up basically drinking a whole bottle of something.
Yeah.
And having to go through security and get on a plane, which they were flying everybody in shifts. So it wasn't just us, you know, you're on a plane with Slayer and, you know, Mike Patton and Duff from Guns N' Roses. And
yeah, the Ataris have done Soundwave before. It's kind of crazy some of the bands that you actually get to like interact with when you do that festival.
Well, they don't do it anymore. It lost all its money and everything.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's nuts. You know, like Metallica and Green Day had their own planes, I guess, but you're just kind of stoked because you're sitting there going, Duff's sitting in economy with everybody, you know, and you're like, that's crazy. But that was where, yeah, I was hammered. It's like first time you realize it and you're like, I'm trying to take my shoes off, and they're like, sir, you don't have to take your shoes off, and you're just like, I mean, like 4 a.m. drunk at 4 p.m. and it's like no shirt, one shoe off, an open bottle of Jack Daniels, and they're just waving you through like, just come on. And you know, and half the band, you get on those planes and you're just rowdy, and about 4 minutes into the flight, half the flight's asleep.
Yeah.
And so that's the one time I was, because you get starstruck by certain people because you're just like, holy crap.
Oh yeah, I always get starstruck by people. I'm starstruck talking to you because I like your band so much, man.
Man, that's crazy talk. Thank you. But yeah, so I was just done talking. Duff's sitting there. Everybody, you know, you're not even really talking to him, but he's there. He's aware. And some guy walks up and was like, Brian Venable? And you're like, fuck, yeah, that's me. And they're like, you dropped your passport on the plane. And you're just like, fuck. And Duff looks at you and just is like, man, you drink too much.
Jeez.
And you're like, shit, the guy from Guns N' Roses just told me I drink too much. You know, and he'd been sober forever, I think, by that point.
Yeah.
But still, it was just so like, golly, that's like getting kicked out of the Black Crows for doing too much drugs, you know?
Yeah, man. So this time in Australia, I mean, like I said, I've got a lot of listeners in Australia. It's one of my biggest support, like my listeners in Australia are one of my biggest groups that I have. And a lot of people have been emailing me because they knew that you were going to be on the podcast. How were the shows? I'm sure it was a pretty good reception since you hadn't been there since Soundwave. How did it go for you guys?
It was amazing. Like, I think we were scared in a way. Like, you know, like we've been doing this. It'll be 21 years in April. Still waiting for people to realize that we're faking or something to some degree. You know, like we know we're not, but there's still that like, and we'd never headlined or we'd never been over except for we'd opened up for Dropkick. We'd done Soundwave, a few single shows with Flog and Molly. So we were like, man, we're about to fly 5 hours to play to like 12 people. We were like, ooh, you know, and then we started seeing the pre-sale stuff and it was like, but yeah, it was nuts, you know, like 200 or 300 people in Sydney and Brisbane. I think over 500 in Melbourne. Wow! And they, like you said, they were just stoked. And like, you know, Sydney and Melbourne were amazing, but Brisbane, man, they were there for the show. It was yeah, it was pretty amazing.
Well,
So
I want to talk a little bit about your fan base. Is a pretty rabid fan base, pretty loyal. I've seen you guys many times. The last time that I saw you guys was in 2015 down in New Orleans, and I mean it's kind of crazy. There's not a lot of bands out there that have the fan loyalty that you guys have. I just remember, that last time I saw you, it just struck me. Everybody was drinking and just yelling the songs. Like Ben didn't even have to sing. I mean, has it been that way for the last few years? I mean, I know at the beginning it probably wasn't that way, but I mean, do you guys just feel very connected to your fans?
I think the beautiful thing about it, and I guess it's a curse as well, kind of thing, that we earn everybody one fan at a time, and everybody says that, but it's kind of, for us, it's like we don't get really any radio play.
Yeah.
We don't. I mean, we made that super fancy video, and then people saw it. It's a wonderful video, but I don't know who watches videos or if our age range watches video. I don't know, and we're not. There's not an MTV to break us. Satellite radio plays us some and stuff, and I think that's the thing.
Yeah.
So live shows, do you know what I mean? Like we go out, we play, we lay it out on the stage, and then we hang out. Ben hangs out more now than everybody.
Yeah.
We all go out, we say hey, do some stuff, but yeah, that's the thing. It's like, and then those people tell their friends like, oh, you got to see this band, and then they bring their friends, and then their friends, so it's still
pretty organic way to get fans. I really like that, man.
And that's they're not. We don't have 1 million fans, but the 300,000 we have, found us on their own, so to speak.
Yeah.
And that's the thing when you see the message boards, or there are even message boards anymore. The Facebook, I don't know. Frick. But yeah, they're all like, when we played CBS, everybody was stoked, but there was a but after it. Like, oh, I'm so happy for the guys, but man, I hope they don't get too popular.
Well, I was really excited for that. I set my DVR and everything, and that actually brings me to a pretty cool question. My wife, I've let her listen to Lucero quite a bit, and she's pretty familiar with you guys. When we watched you guys on television on CBS this morning, she commented that she really liked that you played barefoot. Is that a thing that you always have done, or is that something like?
I've been doing it lately. It's laziness for nothing else.
Yeah.
Feet sweat. I don't, being Southern, I'm not Florida Southern by any means,
Yeah.
but it's hot down here.
Oh yeah.
And I've kind of grown up like people flip-flops. I don't wear sandals, but flip-flops, I'm a lover of the flip-flops.
Yeah.
And there's a point where it's like, if it gets hot, man, I'm going to wear some flip-flops. I'm okay with it. And especially back in the day, it just got to the point where it's like, I'm not going to stop and put shoes on and go on stage.
Yeah, yeah.
So in the end, you just kick off the flip-flops. In the early days, I did it a lot, and it was just funny. I'm a terrible guitar player. I mean, I'm untrained. I don't know. It's not a humble brag or nothing. It's just, I've taken something and turned it into something. So,
I mean, that's a good segue into another thing. I've got some notes here that I took down. The one thing that I've always really liked about your playing is that it serves the song very well. It's not that flashy. And I mean, I guess you're saying you're not trained and everything, but you do serve the song very well. It's almost a simplistic kind of approach. How do you approach writing your leads and stuff?
It's like falling down the stairs, man. No, well, that's the whole thing is basically, do you ever hear that story like on the Chili Peppers when that John Frusciante, and that the young kid that took over after what it is, he basically learned to play guitar with the Chili Peppers.
Okay.
And I never played guitar before this band, so my whole entire career was to play with Ben's lyric, or
yeah.
I mean, the goal is to make the song better, not the singer necessarily, not the whatever, but just everybody's job is to make that song badass. Nobody's more important than the song. And so that's the kind of thing is I was learning to play, but I also was learning, it's like, okay, there's a lot of space in my playing, or used to be, because I didn't know where to go next, and I would just stop. And people are like, man, you leave it so wide open and airy. And I'm like, yeah, I do, don't I?
Yeah.
And and it just kind of grew from there. Now they joke about it. They're like, this part, and then you do some kind of Lucero guitar to it, like it's
Yeah.
become a verb. And Jim Dickinson one time was just like, man, I stay up at night. Like he was working on, I think Nobody's Darlings with us, and he'd get up in the morning. He's like, I just sit around and just try to think, how do you find the first note you play? I'm like, I don't slide down till it sounds right, and then start from there. I don't, like I've never thought about it. And he's just like, there's people that went to Juilliard to learn to do what you do. I'm like, well, there's people that played Van Halen licks under the covers to do what they do. I don't,
Well, my stepfather and I talk about it a lot because I'm a trained guitarist. I actually teach guitar now for a living. That I'm not touring. I'm well versed in theory and everything. And my stepfather's a blues musician, and he loves Lucero. You guys are one of his favorite bands, and he always comments on how everything lead guitar wise is just so tasteful, and like it's the same kind of thing. Like you couldn't teach somebody to play the way that you play, and we really appreciate it. So I hope you know that.
Well, the thing too is I have no idea what he's saying over there. Like that's the other joke is a lot of the stuff I write parts before lyrics even happening.
Yeah.
And I love melody. I mean, that's something I am aware of, and so, and that's somebody one time was like, your guitar parts are almost like harmony lines to his vocals or his parts. And sometimes it affects us. He's like, you can't play something because you're playing along with this part, but my vocal pattern is going to be different and it clashes and such. And so, yeah, it's, honestly, like there's some lead line stuff I did, and I was doing a major scale, and they were like, man, it's crazy you do a major scale over or a minor scale over that major chord. And I was like, I didn't know that little M at the bottom was something different. kind of,
Yeah.
And yeah, so I solely by ear. Sometimes it's right, sometimes it's not,
Do you guys get together when you're like, getting ready to record a record or write a record? Is it most of the time you guys all in a room jamming stuff out, or does like Ben bring in full songs? Like, how does that work?
in the early days, that was how it worked. He'd go to Little Rock on Wednesday, or maybe he'd go to Little Rock on Tuesday night, hang out on Wednesday, and he'd usually write, practice, hang out with his folks, do whatever. He had a job there. And then he'd come back on Thursday and we'd have band practice. And then that's like the first record in most of Tennessee, I think. He would show up and have the songs written and all the verses and all the words, and we would just flesh it out.
Yeah.
And then as we started touring, as it started growing, he would have like 3 done songs and then parts of songs. And there was a lot of songs they're not bad songs, but you can tell in the middle of our catalog, there's some weaker tracks on some albums.
Yeah.
If we ever sat down and be like, that was done, and that, he was writing lyrics in the studio. And again, if you don't get to run through stuff, if I'm playing some lead line that doesn't sound good with a vocal that I don't know because there's no lyrics yet. But this last record, it was like we didn't have really anything. We just went in and we were just cranking them out. And then we had all the songs written musically, most of the parts fleshed out. And then we took a break. He went home for 2 or 3 weeks. He had to write lyrics to 14 songs.
Yeah.
And I'm like, woo, have fun with that. And so, yeah, it's kind of a thing. Before I quit in 2003, like
Okay.
Dad got sick, I got angry, just everything was whatever. But before I quit, he would show up and we would play songs together and we'd play guitar. That's the whole like, together we make a good guitar player kind of joke was forever. And then after I quit, he would do it with Roy. So now the main thing is like, he'll have some parts and him and Roy will flesh out tempo and part, and then we all kind of come in and start adding to it and stuff.
So Among the Ghosts is the new record. It's your 9th studio album. You just mentioned you worked with Matt Ross Spang. How was it working with him? I mean, he's worked with so many great people, won Grammys and everything. Was there any difference in the production, like when you guys were in there?
No, that's the whole thing is he's just a Memphis kid, like Rick had known him since he was 14 or 15 kind of thing. He's young, like you don't realize how young he is sometimes. I don't know what they record with now, but he can record every note that gets recorded. And so I'm sure there's some hard drive or something.
Yeah.
And even when we were just writing and jamming and he would listen, he'd have some notes. He'd say, oh, try this or that. But he just kind of let us. We did 3 records with Ted Hutt and they were very regimented.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like, and the first one for me, I chafed real bad. And by the third one, I was like, oh, this is how we do it. I mean, working with Ted Hutt taught me how to work in a studio. Like, it was basically a 3-record class on studio etiquette or whatever. And it was great. But then getting to work with Matt was a back to like the old days. Everybody, even Jim or everybody was like, man, y'all know what you're doing. Just record the songs. And they pretty much let us have free reign, which, and Ted came in and was like, y'all don't write bridges. Y'all don't do this. Y'all don't do that. And he kind of beat that into us. So we kind of got to step back, like getting to go back in time with the knowledge you have now.
Yeah.
So we got to go back to old ways, but be better trained musicians or something. So I don't know.
Did you guys do a lot of overdubs and whatnot, or was it all kind of like playing live in a room? I know there's kind of a dichotomy between the two styles of recording.
The way we do it, it's kind of like we played live in the room, like, and we've done it a lot, and that's how you get that. We'll play live while we're always recording drums. So we get the live feel with the drums.
Yeah.
And then you kind of build up some stuff. I mean, so yeah, I think I re-recorded every guitar part. But that initial feeling is when we all played together.
Do you have, like you were talking about, how you do your leads and whatnot, and that you're not that trained. Do you have it all kind of figured out before you go to record, or is there a little bit of room for some improv and whatnot?
Oh man, all I do is improv. It drives Ben nuts. I haven't played the same thing twice in my entire life. Among the Ghosts is the only record that I'm really playing everything like it is on the record, simply because we recorded all that. Like I said, well before I did the lyrics, they dumped 800 million. Like they mixed it. There's Mellotron, there's parts, and there's this. And then when I go back, I'm like, man, I don't know what I wrote.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you go back 4 months later to learn the songs, and I'm like, the fuck is that? And so I had Matt and Wes solo. I have a whole entire Among the Ghosts. It's just my guitar soloed out.
Wow.
And so I can go back and literally go, because there's things I'm playing going, what the fuck was I thinking? It's awesome, but who played that? Wow.
Well, I know the times that I've seen you play, I'm always pleasantly surprised with what you play live, because I'm looking to hear what's on the record, and you do something a little bit different. But I mean, Ben kind of does that with melodies and whatnot as well.
Yeah, well, I feel like he probably doesn't want to. Just that's between us and everybody in the world.
Yeah.
But it's kind of like the Elvis Costello thing. For me, the record is a painting. It's a moment in time. It's a beautiful thing. Live shows is what I thrive on.
Yeah.
You get up there, you don't know if the sound's going to suck. You don't know if you're going to suck. You don't know if the crowd's going to be great. You just don't know. You got 2 hours and 15 minutes to make it do,
Yeah.
And that for me is, some nights they get a good solo on YouTube. Some nights they get Brian Falls Apart. And, but yeah, and that's the thing is lately there's a few songs where I'm like, ooh, I'm going to learn, not necessarily, I just need to know the area. I listen to nothing but crazy free jazz now.
Yeah.
And like crazy Japanese and German ambient noise, not even noise. Like I'm listening John Cage type stuff at this point.
Okay.
I'm listening to Art Ensemble of Chicago. I'm Albert Eiler, Ornette Coleman, to where as long as I'm in the box, I should be able to do whatever I want. And not everybody agrees on my team, but that's the premise I go in is, as long as I don't stray outside the lines, it might sound weird, but it's going to be in tune or key or whatever words you need to have to make it,
Yeah.
And so that's the beauty of it for me is, I listen to Leonard Skinner. I listen to all the stuff. I just, at this point in my life, I'm listening to, like I said, this crazy stuff. I'm learning about atonal stuff. I'm learning about other stuff. We never really listen to the music that we get classified with.
I think it's kind of hard to classify you guys, actually. Like, it amazes me that you guys haven't maybe gotten more popular in certain like country or like outlaw country realms. Like, it always seems to me the people that I know that love your band are punk rockers like myself.
Yeah, well, that's the whole thing is, and that's that tough sell. Like, everybody loves Sturgill till he starts doing acid and talking about Buddha.
Yeah.
Like he's gonna, it's great. But Housewives and say Indiana,
Yeah.
are probably going to be all like, I don't know what this nuts godless creature singing about right now.
Yeah.
Our biggest thing forever was people would be like, I love the music. I hate that guy's scratchy vocals.
I've heard that
You know?
before, but man, since I first heard you guys, I just thought it was like very original, and I love it. But yeah, I've heard that argument before.
You know, most people don't want to hear original music. You
Yeah.
do know that. And that's not even slamming anybody in particular. It's just popular music as a whole, the music we play, the music that, Western culture is all about to feel something from the past or feel good or,
Or they don't want to think. They don't want to have to wrap their head around something new.
And that's here nor there, but yes, that's the whole thing. So we're 3/4 of the way to being famous, but there's always that one thing that's going to, whatever, whether it's my weird guitar playing, whether it's Ben's scratchy vocals, whether or just whatever, there's always going to be, that's the entertaining the masses thing.
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with it. There's nothing right with it. It's just, that's what, that's that perfect package kind of thing.
Well, I'm wanting to know, like, you guys, I know you formed in 1998, so the band's been around, like you said, almost 21 years now. When you guys formed in those early days, what were you listening to that kind of influenced the way that you guys sounded? Was it, the Memphis scene, like just living in Memphis or Little Rock having that influence on the band's sound?
Man, no. I've been trying to start a country band, air quotes, for years before this.
Okay.
There was a point where punk rock, I got tired of it. I found a Leonard Skinner record and a Buck Owens record and a Joe Jackson. I found a pile of records on a curb somewhere, which doesn't really happen anymore, but it happened. I'd never really heard Buck Owens before Hee Haw, and it was just like, holy fuck, and you heard Leonard Skinner growing up on the radio. Leonard Skinner is an amazing band.
No, they're great. They're great.
Overplayed. They are all this and that. It's blown out of proportion, but musically, it's insane.
Well, and like the deep album cuts, I think, are what people don't even know, and they're so much better than the singles. The singles got overplayed, but yeah, they're an amazing band.
But I'm just saying at the time, so I'm 23, 24 going, holy frick, and that's where I didn't know about alt country. I didn't know about redneck shit. I just all of a sudden was just like, I was this fucking hardcore kid going, I love Leonard Skinner. I love Molly Hatchet. I love this, and this is, I'm going to say pre-internet. Somebody probably had an internet. We didn't.
Yeah.
And so, yeah. And so all of a sudden I was like, I want to start a Southern rock band. I want to start a country band. And following that Leonard Skinner, T is for Texas, T is for Tennessee, that led down the path for me to Jimmy Rock, Carter family. I discovered bluegrass and and then worked my way back around to, the Blasters and Dwight Yoakam. And so I was in this world, but then there was also like Tom Waits' Blind Love and the Pogues. But there was a point where I was like, I want to be, that's why that dreaded cowboy emo word, I used it one time and it has dogged us for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
Is that I wanted some sort of, imagine Don Rich playing for Christie Front Drive. I was like, I want it to be this kind of indie rock, but have this kind of country, twangy, sad feel to it.
Yeah.
I was basically describing alt country. Again, not knowing about Uncle Tupelo, not knowing about No Depression Magazine, not knowing about any of that. And so, yeah, I suckered Ben into the whole thing. And he was wanting to write. We were, like I said, we wanted to do a band that sounded like Tom Waits' Blind Love. Like that for us was just like, man, this is it, And that's where we kind of started in our haphazard way. And then, but yeah, as you grow, it's like, oh shit, I wanted horns on a record. And that's how we ended up with horns. I was like, I liked Rocket from the Crypt. I liked these bands with these horns. I was like, man, we should have horns on a song. We got Jim to come in on the demos for 1372, and he came in and put horns on one, and we're like, do another one, do it. All of a sudden, we got a horn section for the next 10 years.
Well, I gotta say it was a little strange because being a fan of your band, when I bought 1372 Overton Park and I started listening to it, I'm like, wow, there's horns on every song. It was a little different. I liked it. It was just different.
If you go back and listen to those Leonard Skinner records,
there's horns.
The live records,
yeah.
Horns all over. Alice Cooper, horns all over it.
Yeah.
Oh no, I've had to fight for the horns. But that was the whole thing. That was the other part. Most people were like cool with it. The people that really hated it, what like, you know what R&B is?
Yeah.
Country with horns. and that's the, like, but it's a weird thing because a lot of people that like Johnny Cash don't like Otis Redding,
Yeah. True.
and white tattooed guys don't like to dance. And, I mean, that's not all over true, but as a whole, it was supposed to be tough guy, drinking, sad, and it's all of a sudden you put a little bit of like, boom, bum, boom, bum, and we're all like, and that was for us, that was Memphis, man, but everybody else was just kind of like, oh, now they're a ska band. It's just like, actually, that's your frame of fucking reference, ska.
Yeah, I love that the only frame of reference is with horns is ska. You guys are like Mustard Plug or somebody.
Well, that was our whole. It was just like, get off the fucking internet, 12-year-olds, and so yeah, it just it was nice. That's when we kind of discovered the Memphis aspect.
Yeah,
where it was like we were middle of all. I mean, Tres Van High School, Booker T and the MGs, all this Big Star, all these studios. Like we were like, man, we're a band from Memphis making Memphis music.
Yeah, and that's why I ask, like the whole Memphis thing. I know you guys talk about it a lot. I've got the shirt that says Lucero and it's got like the Tennessee State on it and it has Memphis, and it's just. It seems really cool that you guys embrace Memphis, and I think it's great too. This goes back to the 20 years of Lucero. I know it's almost 21 now, but last year on the 20th anniversary of the band, Memphis actually honored you guys with Lucero Day. How was that?
That was nuts, man. That was my neighbor Bill Webb was a fucking saint. I cuss a lot. Is that okay?
Cussing is fine, man. We're on the internet.
Okay, and he knew the mayor, and that's the thing. Memphis is beautiful about ignoring all its, like, if you're not Elvis, you're dead to Memphis, and so that was one of those things for us. We were just like, it was like, oh crap, and it was awesome. I mean, I got the plaque, I don't think it's a day. I think it was just that day.
Yeah.
And, but I don't care. I got the freaking thing. Just, I got the proof that it happened.
Yeah.
But that's the whole thing. It's like, I mean, in the end, it is. It's like you grow up, and that's anywhere, I imagine. I don't know. Imagine growing up in Minneapolis, man. Fuck Prince, fuck this. And then all of a sudden you're like, man, Prince is good, or just for us, it was like, I don't give a frick about Elvis. I don't give a crap about the blues. I don't care about, and then at some point you're just kind of like, oh shit. There's all kinds of crazy stuff coming,
Yeah.
So, yeah, and again, it was our Memphis trilogy to some degree, those 3 records. We have a new toy. It's called a horn section. So 1372 was, like you said, it was on everything, man. Because we had already recorded or demoed and he put it on. So it was like icing on a cake for us.
Yeah.
Whereas Women in Work, they were writing with us. And I feel like they were a little bit more integrated. Everybody's ears were used to it, whatever, but also they were a little bit more integrated with the song part.
Is the horn section still playing out live with you guys right now?
No, they haven't for a while.
Okay.
That's the whole thing is we strip down again. And then there's a point where, you see bands. I cite U2 as a reference for that, and they're like, if you're a band for X amount of decade, if you're involved in decades of being a band, you're going to have to mix it up. So you can't just, I guess you can, but that gets boring, and that's when you break up or freak out or do drugs. You
could be Slayer and put out the same record every time.
Man, if only we were that lucky. It's never quite as good as but I understand where you're going.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's the thing is, so for us, it was like, we were the underdogs. Ben's dating some crazy girl and we're playing music for a living, and it's just kind of like, woo, we have that free spiritedness. And then we start feeling old, or then, we have kids, or, this and everything, like you're getting all this kind of stuff. So the music's growing up with us, and it's not costumes, it's still us, but it's just, and at some point too, you become real honest with yourself. You're like, I still love the Replacements, Tom Waits, and the Pogues, but really, I truly grew up a child. I'm 47. I'm a child of the late 70s, early 80s.
Yeah.
I like Huey Lewis and the News.
Yeah.
I like John Cougar Mellencamp, but that's the thing is like, you want to say you grew up on some whatever cool rock and roll, but realistically, if you listen to rockabilly, you like you got it because of the Stray Cats.
Yeah.
If you liked R&B, you liked it because of Tough Enough by the Fabulous Thunderbirds, or Hard Up Rock and Roll is the beat. That's the first horns probably that you were aware of, maybe, or any kind of new wave references, or like at some point you're like, yeah, all you ever really end up wanting to be is Tom Petty.
Totally, man. Yeah.
And that's just, yeah, he got to do whatever the frick he wanted, and he just made song and that's the thing. Imagine if Tom Petty had started playing music in 2004.
Yeah.
They wouldn't know what the fuck to do with him.
No,
you know what
not
I mean?
at all.
Like, Americana? What? It's just, that's the kind of thing that it's like, yeah, if we'd have been a band in 1972, I'd live in a nicer, or my whatever house would be a little better kept, or or just. But you know what I mean? Like, we're writing some of the best music of 1976 right now.
Yeah.
And so
well, yeah, I was looking at like a review of the new record, and one of the things that stuck out to me was it said these lyrics could have been written 100 years ago, and I thought that was really cool.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, and that's and again, that's part of the stuff that the people that like that kind of stuff, if you can get, and I think Ben's voice has mellowed and gotten more sing-songy or whatever, melodic or whatever. But for a lot of people, it's not. And that's, and a lot of people don't want to hear, you're not really just cranking the tunes to hear that sad Civil War song about his wife.
Yeah.
And and that's, I don't know.
So you mentioned that, you started playing guitar when you formed Lucero back in 1998. Were you in any other bands, or is this your first and only band?
It's my first and only band.
Dude, that's insane. I had some of the guys from Thrice. Eddie from Thrice was on the show, and like Thrice is his first band. Like, I was in so many bands before I had any success. I kind of envy that, your first band is still your band.
Well, and let's just say, like, my dad played music forever. He played on Bill Street. We're a shoe repair family, but he's always wanted to be a musician. And I spent my 20s, popping trains, riding buses, and being dirty transient punk guy writing zines. My dad's like, why don't you learn an instrument? And I always had a bass or something. I never really learned how to play it. For about 2 weeks, I played bass, air quotes again, in a band that eventually became Pez.
Wow.
Out of Memphis.
Yeah.
And that just was not so, but this is the first, like, yeah, I was like, I traded, I still was trying the other day to tell somebody, it's like, I don't remember how I got my first setup. It was awful.
Yeah.
Like a Fender Bassman with a 115 cabinet and a Guild Starfire or something wired together, 2 single coil pickups wired together with speaker wires, so you couldn't, it was just, it was and at some point, eventually I traded or sold and ended up with just a Jap copy telly. And I bought a twin reverb, it's like, that's what you're supposed to have.
Yeah.
You never, ever in your entirety of your life need a twin reverb. That shit, unless you're playing a Coliseum, man. And I don't know what kind of music you played, but I was like, that shit is loud and clean and awful.
The last band that I was in actually was this cover band. I was living down in Gulf Shores, Alabama. I worked for the Hangout Music Festival, which is something I want to tell you about because I championed to get you guys on the festival, but it never happened. But I was playing in this cover band, and I was using, my friend had the same amp you're speaking of. And yeah, we went to the Floribama, which is this place down there, this big kind of country Western bar.
I know where that place is.
Yeah. It's a great place. And like, it was the first time I was using the amp, and I had to dial it back to like 1.5, or it wouldn't even, I mean, it was too much.
Yeah. No, well, they tell you, and you don't know. Like I said, I grew up in punk rock. I watched freaking 4 dudes with 2 full stacks between them and a bass 16 speaker bass cab play a bathroom. Like we had, it's like nuance was not something that was instilled in me at an early age. And so, but yeah, I just, and I'd go down to the library and Xerox songs that I liked, the tablature.
Wow.
And I don't know any cover songs except for whatever we know. But what I liked was the chord changes.
I mean, you guys do that Jawbreaker cover, though.
Oh, well,
Kiss the Bottle.
They got back together. We don't have to do that anymore.
Oh, but I love that cover. That cover is so good.
Yeah. It's great. I'm just saying, we know whatever covers we play in the band
Yeah.
is what cover. It's like I just never learned, and I've just never did it. But what I'd liked was like, ooh, I really like those two chord sounds together. Now I can explain it better. But back then I was like, I don't know.
Yeah.
And I'd sit in my room and practice these, like, changing these chords kind of thing. And that's a lot of my early day. Couldn't make chords, so I would do the single notes, and that's where a lot of my weird wiry lead line esque, just, like, instead of playing along with the chords, I'm gonna do some sort of do 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 do, because I couldn't go chung 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 chung. Just fingers weren't gonna do it, and so yeah. But this is the first, like, I didn't. That was the beauty of punk rock part of the Lucero aspect. Like, we didn't do this to get famous. We were just going to play sad, pretty weirdo songs to piss off punk rock kids at the show.
That's
that
awesome.
was the, like, hey, I want to play with the loudest bands in the world and get up there and be all like, ding, 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 and watch everybody like, what the fuck? I was like, that's the most punk rock thing in the world. Let's,
yeah.
And everybody just sat down on the floor and cried and loved it. And so that was also the beauty, is that we were we weren't touring. Nobody was telling us what we could and couldn't do.
Yeah.
So we were able to just kind of gestate and develop this style that is horribly wrong most of the time.
What was like the first actual tour that you guys did, like outside of, Tennessee or Arkansas?
Man, like, the North Mississippi All-Stars are wonderful people, and they will take your ass on tour well before you're ready.
Yeah.
And Ben bought a van. When we'd hit like Little Rock here, we might find somebody in Nashville or something. We were hit little places, and then but they were like, because John had known them, they'd known us. Cody was coming to see the shows, and we all kind of, y'all grow up in the same circles. And yeah, they were like, you're going on tour. And we would go out for like 3 weeks and play like crazy places. I'm like, no, I'm some crazy big ass 1,000-seat room. Be like, I don't know what a monitor is. You don't have to put that in front of me. And this guy's looking at me like crazy. I'm all like, it's just going to confuse me, man. And, and I'm the weak link, honestly. Ben had Red 40. Ben played in all these bands. John, like, the other guys in the bands are like what you talk about. They, Ben's wanted to be a rock star since he was born.
Yeah.
I'm more of like, I wanted to fly helicopters in Alaska. This is just as fun, I think.
Yeah.
But yeah, like, it was just a science experiment or a art project that took,
That's cool, man.
And it's great. I love I'm very proud of my accomplishments, our accomplishments as a band. But it's really funny. When we started, it was just like, ooh, maybe we can put out a demo tape.
Yeah.
Ooh, I'd love to have a 7-inch. Ooh, and that was the kind of thing to where, and then some people found us. I feel like, surely to God, we'd had a record before we went out with the All-Stars. If we just went out without, that would be what we would do, though. But I think we had the first record finally before we really started going out on tour. And so, yeah. But, yeah. So that was the kind of, we got to do 45 minutes or 30 minutes in front of the All-Stars crowd, jam band, early 2000s. Most of the time they liked it. A lot of times they were just like, what the fuck is this Debbie Downer shit? We're here to dance.
That's awesome.
You're affecting my acid there, fella. So.
But hey, I'll tell you, so the thing that I was alluding to earlier, I just moved back to Indiana for the last 6 or 7 years. I was in Gulf Shores, Alabama. And there's the Hangout Music Festival. I was actually in artist relations for the festival. And one day they were like, is there any bands that you would, like to see on the festival? And it's pretty funny because I was like, well, yeah, I would really like to see Lucero or Childish Gambino, which is a rapper.
Yeah, no, it's that guy from the show. I didn't know that.
And the funny thing was, like, I didn't have a lot to do with the booking. I did like artist relations and just different contracts and whatnot. But the funny thing was that year, Childish Gambino was on the tour, but you guys weren't there.
That's funny. He's easier to get than we are.
Yeah,
is that what you're telling me? That's the
yeah.
beauty of that
you
story.
Guys are too expensive, I guess.
No, I don't know. We depending on what year it was, but man, we either work our butts off, but then Ben and Roy had babies,
I think it
And
might have been around that time, or you guys might have been working on a record or something. It was a few years back.
yeah, it just because we generally never say no to anything.
Yeah.
And yeah, I have my son's 10, and they're all like, as soon as he's born, they're like, let's go on tour for 20,000 years. And then they all have babies, and it's just kind of like, I can only go out for 3 weeks or less at a time.
Yeah.
And I'm all like, y'all can all fuck yourself. Yeah, yeah, all right. But so yeah, man, fat kid stage right. I just go where I'm told.
So I want to go on a tangent now. We've talked a lot about the band. Now, you and I are Facebook friends, and I saw the other day when you got back from Australia that you decided to shave all your facial hair off, and you shaved your head. And I've got to say, you didn't look bad before, but you look like you're about 20 years old now.
Man, it's so funny. I'm the only one in the world that's like, man, I look like an old fucking set of balls now. I look horrible. Everybody else is like, you look so young. And I'm all like, do you see this face? It looks so old.
Yeah,
now,
what was the reasoning? Like, because I get like that too. I've got a big beard, and sometimes I get sick of it, but I never take it all off. I just trim it up, and I do shave my head.
That was the whole. I'm in a great place right now, but like 4 or 5 years ago, my wife left. It's just me and the boy, and I spent about a year getting real dark, and the poor man had to live through a lot of crying and yelling and rage and just whatever. And then I started doing self-studying. I read constantly. I'm trying to like find this place. I'm studying Sufi and Zen stuff, and just kind of being all crazy. And like before she left, I was like shave my head bald, beard down to my dick, sleeveless shirts, like
Yeah.
the look, man, the look.
Yeah.
And after she left, it was like started dressing a little nicer, grew my hair out, and just trimmed the beard and just this and that, and going through all this crazy stuff. And went from being vegetarian to eating meat and back to vegetarian, just all over the place. But the one constant was the beard, because it's terrifying. Like, I hate that I don't have this beard. I had to shave the beard off for my I don't want to say my soul, but the whole trick in the end, it's like the beard is not your point of power. The power is inside of you. But do you know Brian Eno and all that?
Yeah.
He has those oblique strategy cards.
I've seen those. Yeah, I'm not super familiar, but I know what you're talking about.
I spent one about 4 or 5 months ago, man. I got Roku, and I got the Midnight Special channel, which is the greatest channel in the world. And but there's this Brian Eno, the man who fell to earth or something. But it's like a 3-hour Brian Eno movie about him, and it's nuts. Like, he didn't know how to play it. He was an art student, and they gave him said, "Here, have this synthesizer," and he would openly brag with Roxy Music about not knowing how to play an instrument. Like, he just and that. And then when he left Roxy Music, there was this huge, like, crazy whatever, like, not wait, but like, okay, big man who doesn't know how to play an instrument, you got to make a record now, and he kind of knocked it out of the park, whatever. But he had gotten into this John Cage, who's like the Zen guy in I Ching, and how to, prompts and just how to make decisions according to chance, or, but they sat around in the studio and made this set of cards that's just like, if you decide to do a project and you can get these cards out, it's just like, if you get stuck or if you want to figure out how you started, and it's just like, make the first one the last, try it backwards, it's all easy. There's a lot of other crazy, it's 100 and some odd cards.
Yeah.
And the one I saw is something, I can't tell you when it says it in the Instagram, but it's something, the axiom. Basically, it was like, shed the axiom or get rid of the axiom. And I had to look, I was like, what the fuck is an axiom? But it was a constant. And it was something that was considered a concrete constant, or it was some kind of phrasing. I was like, man, I'm doing all this studying. I'm trying to be self-aware. I'm trying to be a better person. I'm trying to find this. But in the end, I've always been anchored by something as silly as this beard.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. It's like, all of a sudden, I had a beard before there was beard culture. I had a beard, like, ladies love a beard, break up with your lady before you shave your beard. Beard equal, I'm just saying there's all that crazy,
Well, yeah, dude, I've dealt with the same thing because I've had a full beard since I was 17 years old. So I totally understand.
Yeah. And I'm growing it back at some point. It's not like, it didn't fall out. I'm not, it's not alopecia or whatever. But yeah, that was the kind of thing where I was coming back and I was just like, man, yeah. And I was like, fuck it. And started, you make sure you cut half of it off before you change your mind. So you're like, well,
Yeah.
we're in it. And yeah. And it's just a beard.
Yeah.
My face is a little colder. And I love my beard. I'm going to, like I said, at some point I'm going to grow it back. But right now, for me, like, people don't recognize me. It's awesome. People are like, "You're crazy. Are you sick? Are you crazy?" Like,
when I saw that picture, I mean, because you and I don't hang out or anything, but we've been friends on Facebook for a while, and I saw that picture and I was like, oh, wow. I mean, it was just a total transformation, and it makes me almost want to do it to myself, but my wife has told me many times that she does not want me to do that.
See, I don't have anybody to not control, but like I have unfettered access to every fucking bad idea that I have.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. I was like, I've been working out. I've lost 25 pounds. Like I said, it's just my physical features are changing anyways. And I was going to shave my head because I was kind of tired of fooling with my hair for a little bit. And that was the other thing. I was like, if I shave my head, keep the beard, that's like downgrading. That's going to go back to the way it used to look.
Yeah.
I was like, I should do something, and that's all. It's like last night, I'm working on this portrait series. Hopefully by the end of the year, I'm calling it self-titled. I'm painting pieces of my body, and being crazy. And I was dicking around, and I took the charcoal and just rubbed it down my face and took, funny pictures.
That's awesome, man.
And everybody was just like, oh, apocalypse now. And I guess Boy George did something where he dripped something on his head because a lot of people were Boy George. And I'm all like, I don't even know that. I had to look that reference up.
Yeah.
And I'm like, Boy George is fine. I'll take that. But yeah, they're all like, cry for help and all this. And it's just like, man, I can do anything I want. That's the whole thing. It's like, I'm not defined by anyone. I don't want to be defined by any one thing.
Yeah.
And that was the whole thing. It's like, I mean, my son had never seen me in 10 years without a beard. He just stares at me. He's just like, what the fuck? And it's hilarious because you don't think about it. Like, there's a person that's important in your life that's never seen you without a beard.
That's crazy.
And like I said, he's just like, it looks fine.
Yeah.
You grow back, or whatever. But it was just, if you don't need to do it, there's no reason to do it.
Yeah.
But that's that kind of thing to where sometimes you got to do what scares you the most, man.
Oh, yeah. And that definitely scares me. I've thought about it many times, but I haven't quite got the courage up. One day it'll happen.
Well, again, if you don't need to, that's the whole thing. It's just like people get all, like, ooh, and it's just like, man, you do you.
Yeah.
That's all.
Well, speaking of your son, is he musical at all? Does he think it's cool that dad's a guitarist in a rock band?
Probably, but he ain't going to tell me.
He's
He
not
don't
gonna tell
care.
you.
He likes Fortnite and whatever video game stuff.
Yeah.
I catch him. It's real funny. Like, he went on tour we did that Frank Turner run last summer, and he did the whole 4 weeks US, and he didn't see one show.
Really?
He's like, man, I know what you do for a living. I don't care.
Yeah.
It's just tough. You got to imagine my house. It ain't the best house, but it is covered in art, tattoo stuff. I got a Hammond M3 in the living room. I got guitars everywhere. I got skateboards, fishing rods. We got an art studio, a library. He's got, I don't even know what gaming systems in his room. There's a loft.
That's awesome.
I built a punk rock loft in his room. I'm about to put in a dark room. We got garden stuff. We went to New Orleans for a week, hung out. He came home with a Roman coin and a cobra-headed cane sword. It's he's going to be maladjusted as can be.
Yeah, that's great.
But then I'll catch him sometimes. Like, he wanted to join strings, and he's like, I want to play the viola because it's smaller and easier to carry. And I'm like, man, I don't want to burst your bubble, kid, but that viola is a little bigger than the violin. That is your John Cale instrument, And he played it. And he practiced at home on his own. And then it just like Christmas break happened, and then it snowed and something, and then he kind of just was like, I don't want to do it anymore.
Yeah.
And I'm trying not. There's a point where I'm like, should I force him? Because you got to follow through. But there's also nothing worse than being like, let me kill your musical dreams by forcing you to play this thing you don't want to do.
Yeah.
I'm trying not to involve lifelong resentments. And then every once in a while, he fires up the organ, and I catch him playing. He's got an amazing sense of rhythm and a pretty good sense of melody. And then one day I was at the tattoo shop. I own this tattoo shop now, so I got to go down there and sit around and not do anything but in the way, but just be there.
Yeah.
And I bought a trumpet for some. I was like, I want to be able to blow one note, put a contact mic on it, and run it through a sampler and do just weird shit to it. But he was like, sent a picture of this trumpet. He was like, what is this and how does it work? And it's just like, oh, and he spent 3 days pretend blowing into that thing. And I was like, I could get him lessons, but as soon as I said that, he'd probably be like, never mind.
Yeah, yeah.
But then for Christmas, he got a drum set. And it was pretty hilarious. He was like, hey, drum set, okay. And then it was set up in the living room under the tree. And then like 2 nights later, he dragged the floor tom and the snare into his room, closed the door on me, and he had been playing Fortnite with his friends. But I found out these video games, you can play them, but you and like 6 of your friends can just sit around and talk. Like you can just corner up
because
somewhere.
everybody's got like
you.
a mic and a headset on, right?
Yeah. And he's in there making jokes, being a little fucking nerd. And then he got a kazoo, and this floor tom and snare is just like boom, boom, ka, ka, boom, boom, ka, rah, 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 boom, just playing basically this polka garage rock. And I'm trying to record it through the door and going, oh my God, this is the greatest thing ever. But it's just, I'm hoping, like, I think one of his friends is taking guitar lessons, and just basically when he's only 10,
yeah.
I ain't trying to be a parent that's like, my kid can skateboard, my kid plays, the blues or what. I'm like, man, let him, it's here when he's ready to find it.
Well, yeah, my son is almost 3 and my daughter is 1. And back here in the place I'm doing this podcast, in my little studio, I have like a junior drum set, a couple junior guitars. I've got everything they'll ever want. And if they never want it, that's fine, but it's going to be available to them.
And that's, my whole thing is he might be a ballerina that likes electronic music.
Yeah.
That's fine too. But it's funny. Like, he likes to put on the free jazz records and then just blow that horn. People are like, doesn't that drive you crazy? I'm like, nah, it sounds
that's
like
awesome, man. That's great. Yeah.
Like, I was like, my kid's playing free jazz trumpet along with Ornette Coleman, and he's 10, and it's 2019.
Yeah,
that's pretty, like, he's going to be the weird, like I said, it's just no hope whatsoever. It's going to be awesome.
So I do want to talk a little bit about the future of the band, and the future just of you as well. You mentioned owning the tattoo place that is Bluff City Tattoos there in Memphis, right?
Yep.
Can you tell me a little bit about the tattoo shop? I'm an avid tattoo fan. I have a lot of my body covered, and I know that you're into American traditional, which is my favorite.
I'm into the traditional, man. Right now, I'm just into. I'm on my second layer on my arms. I'm getting whatever. I'm just doing whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah. Me and a couple, like, there's like 4 of us that own it, and one of the owners actually tattoos, Brent Hale, and we got this rock star Claire. She does mostly just black illustrated work, but she's booked out till April, man. It's right now. And we got this young kid, Will, who's apprenticing, kind of first year, not really apprenticing, but his traditional stuff is awesome. And yeah, I don't know. We just thought it'd be kind of cool.
Yeah.
And people are coming to it. And we've only been open 3 or 4 months. And, I'm going to have Claire actually apprentice me so I can legally give L-Star tattoos during the block party.
That's awesome, man. Yeah.
I think like the Friday before, I'm going to advertise as like, I got 20 spots open.
Yeah.
$80, $20 tip or something. I don't know.
And that's one thing that my listeners should check out. They have the Lucero family block party in Memphis, right?
Yep. April 13th.
Awesome.
And, but yeah, so it's just kind of nice. It's the same as the band kind of stuff. And I've been painting for the last 2 years and having art shows, and I got art hanging up in there. And, it's just, the tattoos, I don't know. It was like we were talking about it, and then all of a sudden we have some friends and they were like, let's make this happen. And you're like, oh shit. Okay.
Yeah.
Settle down, but okay. And, yeah, I'm hitting wood right now. Everything's going good so far.
Well, that's great, man. So, what's coming up in the future for Lucero?
We're gonna be pretty busy. Like next week, the 19th or so, we leave out to do 3 weeks of the Flog and Molly tour. And I think that's all East Coast, kind of upper East Coast.
I think at the beginning of March, you guys are in Indianapolis. I'm going to try to make it out to that.
Ooh, we're going to loop around. That's right.
Yeah.
Somehow, again, as long as I get the first day, the rest of the days they'll take me where I need to go.
Yeah,
so I
totally.
don't really know until I get the laminate.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's I say East Coast. It's probably, I think there's like Pittsburgh and Detroit too. So I just consider it just the upper block.
Yeah.
But we'll do that, and then we come home in March, end of March, and then I feel like we might pick up something. I'm not sure. But then in April is the block party, and then early May we're doing the Elm Street Tattoo Festival for 2 days, and the rumor is that we're doing self-titled the first night.
Wow.
And Tennessee the second night.
That's awesome.
That's just a rumor. Wink, wink. I'm probably gonna get in trouble for that, but it's all right.
Yeah.
And then that's May, and then Red Rocks with Devil Makes 3 at some point in May.
Wow.
At the end of May.
Yeah, I saw you guys are going to Spain or something, or over to Europe for some festival,
I think
right?
we come home from Red Rocks and something else, and then early June, I got Darby from Darby Songs getting married, so I got to go to her wedding. I'm actually going to Orange Beach to watch her get married.
Wow, awesome! Yeah,
I don't know how awesome, but it's funny that we're going to Orange Beach. I think it'll be fun.
Yeah, you got to hit up the Floribama down there.
I know. I'm just saying it's going to be as redneck Riviera as it can get.
Dude, I lived down there so long. I got a lot of friends. If you need any help, any tour guides or anything, let me know.
I'm going to watch her get married, and then I'm going to go right back home.
Okay.
And that's I'm gonna have the 10-year-old. We're not gonna see any boobs or any koozies full of beer. And and then we fly. I think we're doing a festival or something in UK, and then from UK jumping over to do that Spain festival. And then that's the end of June. Then we come home. Potentially, we take July and August off.
Yeah,
just kind of whatever. There's birthdays and kids' birthdays, and we got some stuff set up for September. And there's stuff that I know about it's not been written down in public, so I'm not allowed to tell people.
That's fine. I understand.
I'm real bad about spilling the beans. They're like, hey, settle down. But yeah, in the second half of the year, we're just basically working. Ben supposedly has some demos. And as per earlier, what I'm trying to do now is to get a little jump on it. I'm like, send me them demos. I know they might change.
Yeah.
But let me see, like I'd like to play guitar along with those. I'd like to see where your brain is. Yeah. And so we own this building. We bought us a building last year, and we're kind of just use it for storage and practice, and just cheaper than renting, I guess. Yeah. And so I imagine we'll go in and try to maybe. We wrote on the floor at Sam Phillips. We can write on the floor at our building that we already pay for cheaper than renting out Sam Phillips, maybe.
Yeah, yeah.
But Sam Phillips, they can record it all. Blah. We're just going to maybe try to do the same thing, just start writing, but not be in any big hurry.
That's cool, man.
And so we'd like to have a new record by 2021. And that's tour, make records, rinse and repeat, man.
So, hey, I want to thank you so much again for coming on the show today. I think I've taken up enough of your time. Is there any way that people can check out you personally on the internet, or you? I mean, I know you had an Instagram. It seems like it went away.
It didn't. It's you on it? I've been on the Instagrams for about last 6 months now. Yeah. It was supposed to be a secret one, and then it just didn't work. But yeah,
I know that the band is Lucero Music on Instagram.
The band is Lucero Music.
Yeah.
My Instagram is Professor with 2 F's, August Balls, PROFFESOR AUGUSTE Balls.
Okay.
That was the disguise maker for Inspector Clouseau in the Pink Panther movies.
Okay.
My plan was to create a secret one and wear a bunch of disguises and create these characters and refuse to admit that it was me, never break character. the beard was part of the problem. I couldn't do really full whatever because everything had a big beard out of it. So it kind of just went away. I might bring it back. And then I have a website with like older paintings, and I post paintings. It's thosevenableboys.com.
Okay.
And yeah, I just doing the damn thing.
Cool, man. Well, hey, I want to just say thank you once again. And I wanted to let you know, just personally from me, I love all the records you guys have done, but Tennessee and that much further west were very important records to me. So thank you very much.
Man, you're very welcome. And thank you for saying that.
Yeah, no problem. So I will let you know when this comes out. And thank you once again for being on that one time on tour, and have a great night, man.
Hell yeah, you too.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Talk to you later, Brian.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.
And there it was, my conversation with Mr. Brian Venable, lead guitarist for the band Lucero. Like I said, Lucero is one of my favorite bands, and getting to speak with Brian was wonderful. I want to make it out to the Lucero block party in Memphis sometime. I haven't made it out there yet, but I want to very soon. You guys need to catch them live if they were in your area. I've seen them many, many times. Like I told Brian, the last time I saw them was a couple years back in New Orleans, but you need to go see them. They're an amazing live band, and the crowds are just crazy, man. They're the most loyal fans I've ever seen. So make sure to check them out on tour. That does it for this week's episode. I want to thank you guys so much. We have charted now 12 weeks in a row on Apple Podcasts. We've also been charting on Spotify. I really appreciate the support, and I'm glad that you guys enjoy what I'm putting together, you know, the content that I'm putting out into the world. It's very nice that you guys like it. It's almost like I'm in a band. Like it feels the same. It feels like when I'm promoting the podcast, like it used to feel when I was promoting my band. So thank you guys once again. I'm going to get out of here. Make sure that you are following us, like always, on the social medias. You know, I hang out on Instagram more than anywhere else, but it's just at TOTOT Podcast everywhere, or go to TOTOTpodcast.com for all the links to everything. There's one more way that you can help out, and it is very, very important. Go to Apple Podcasts or Stitcher or Spotify or Google or wherever you consume your podcasts and write us a review. You know, give us 5 stars. That would really, really help out. That's how they kind of decide what podcasts get on the charts and what podcasts get put with other podcasts as far as the algorithm goes. So the more reviews that we get, the better we are. So thank you so much if you've already done that. If not, it's the least you can do. Help me out, man. Come on. Okay, so I am done. I'm going to get out of here. I'm going to play 2 Lucero songs. Pretty stoked to get to play these on the show. First up, I'm going to play Cover Me from their new record, Among the Ghosts. And after that, I'm going to play one of my personal favorite songs, Hate and Jealousy, from their 2003 masterpiece, in my opinion, That Much Further West. So I will see you guys next week. Chris out.
Let it we move on. I plan on escaping. I'm not going back alone. Ain't going back alone. Ain't going back alone. Ain't going back alone.
Hey Chris, it's Scott calling in from Melbourne, Australia. Just letting you know about the Lucero show last Friday here. Heard in one of your past episodes how cold it was getting in Indiana. Well, last Friday here, it was probably about 38 degrees, which is about 100 degrees Fahrenheit. It is a warm one. The show was at the Corner Hotel in Richmond. It's a bit of an institution in Melbourne. It's kind of like our CBGBs. It had been about 7 years since they've been in Melbourne. Last time they were here, it was a heavy metal festival, which was a bit weird. They were second band on at a small stage after I don't even know who it was. It's like an August Burns Red and Mayday Parade kind of band. I still remember a band walking to the stage and pronouncing, "We're not a heavy metal band. We have no idea what we're doing here." It was about 88 years ago, so we've been waiting a while. It was a full house, which was really pleasing. Pretty sure that the boys really seemed genuinely stoked with the turnout. I reckon you kind of forget over the years what it's like to watch a band who don't just dial it in. I actually really enjoyed what they were doing. Pretty much stuck to a set list for the first part of the show. Played lots of tracks off the new album, but oh man, how good is To My Dearest Wife? That track, man, it's S-class, absolutely class. Pretty much after that, it was a requests and vague set list numbers. And Ben said it's been a while since they've been here, so there's a fair back catalogue to get through. They ticked off tracks from so many albums, man. I'm a massive fan of the Tennessee album, so I got to hear Chain Link Fence, which was brilliant. Highlights were definitely Nights Like These. Played The War, played Tears Don't Matter Much. He played Darling Do You Gamble. Played a crack of a track that he written about his daughter. I think it was called My Name's Izzy. Hasn't been recorded yet, but it's a belter. Really hoping the good turnout and the crowd participation leads to another tour. Hoping not 8 years from now. Anyway, man, hope you're keeping well. Glad to hear your little girl's going well. Keep punching out those podcasts, man. I look forward to one every week. I'm really looking forward to possibly an episode with Scott Radinsky from Pulley, as I keep badgering you about. Maybe one from Matt from Bronx. Cheers again. Keep doing what you're doing, man. You have a big audience. Take care, bud. Cheers.